Zapier used to be a little bit of a slow behemoth. They would release features pretty infrequently, and it felt like all of their competitors were catching up to them and even surpassing them. But lately, they have been really exceeding expectations and releasing a slew of new features, a lot of them their top requested features of all time. For example, now when you are editing a Zap, you're no longer turning it off for the entire time that you're editing it. You can actually create a draft and work on that draft until it's ready and then publish that. You can also name versions, and you can now reorder steps, you can duplicate steps. These are all huge updates that make Zapier a lot easier to use. Now they're taking it a step further. They have introduced this early access program that allows you to actually see a preview of some of the stuff that they're working on. And as part of the early access program, you get to give feedback and talk with them about the upcoming features and what you'd like to see more of. They're now working on two entirely new products, Zapier Tables and Zapier Interfaces. Now, if you're an Airtable user, these terms will sound familiar to you. Tables are basically what Airtable provides, and interfaces is a new feature that Airtable has fairly recently come up with. Yes, these are basically indirect competition with each other. But if Zapier plays their cards right, I could see a scenario where there are, things that you want to actually build on Zapier tables and interfaces that you wouldn't want to build on Airtable. Or at the very least, maybe it's more convenient or it makes sense to do it so that you consolidate all of your tools into one. So I want to show you where they're going with these products and where they're at right now, show you a few different ways that you might be able to use them, and talk a little bit about some of the limitations and what they'll need to do to really stand out and make themselves a viable option compared to some of the alternatives out there right now. So Zapier Tables is essentially just a database built on the Zapier platform. You can create your own fields with different types, just like Airtable, and it's pretty cut and dry. So let's take a look at an example here. So you got your fields, you can sort by them, you can insert before and after, you can connect zaps to them, which I'll talk about in a second. You can add fields, change the type to a few different options here. Notably, they don't have a file upload or image option yet, but I'm sure they'll have that in the future. You've got a checkbox drop down. With the drop down, you can provide a static list, or you can use another table, which is cool because that allows you to connect tables together in a relational database sort of way. So just think of it as a sort of lightweight Airtable for now. It's interesting to see where they might go with this, because if they just tried to make something like Airtable and kind of follow in their footsteps, I think they'll just be behind the whole time. But if they take their strength as the fact that they are a Zapier, they have this product that allows you to automate stuff, that means that they can do a lot of things with this database that Airtable struggles to do. Or maybe they can do it, but you have to use other tools in addition. If you're still using Google Sheets with your Zaps, please stop it. Either use Airtable or wait for this to come out. Google Sheets are not a reliable way to store data because anyone can go in and add a column and ruin all of your Zaps that use that Google Sheet. It's just not a database. Now, notably, they have this experimental button feature, and this is huge. In Airtable, if you want to trigger an automation based on a button press, it's actually not really straightforward to do. With Zapier, you can now have a button that would then trigger a Zap to run. And that's really huge. That allows you to do all kinds of stuff that would be a little bit more difficult to do with Airtable. So this is the kind of thing where leaning into their strength as a company and what they already have in their portfolio allows them to create a more useful product or have some sort of differentiating factor. This is honestly very early access, beta. I would call this more of an alpha. Like, I can't even click add new record. I don't know if that's just today or what, but it's just not working. So there's definitely a lot that needs to be done. I've noticed that although they have the option to create a table from a CSV file, Once you do that, you can't edit the field type of an existing field, and you can't import data into an existing table structure. So if you create your table structure and you have data to import there, you can't do that yet. These are all things that I'm sure they're going to address in the future, so I don't want to make a big deal of those limitations just because I assume they will be fixed. But it is worth mentioning this is not yet something you want to integrate into your tech stack. It's just something to be aware of in the future, because when this comes around and when it's released as a full featured product, I think it could actually be really useful. A cool feature I wanted to show you is you can select multiple rows and then hit run Zap with these records. So this is a really cool way to trigger several rows at once. Okay, now let's talk about interfaces. I think there is a lot of potential here. I've been creating sort of mini apps for clients using Bubble. I know a lot of people create apps for clients using interfaces in Airtable. Honestly, after playing around with interfaces for a little bit, I'm realizing that they've hit the nail on the head. They've basically taken their success in building a tool to connect APIs that even someone who doesn't know what an API is can use, and they've exported those learnings to creating interfaces as well. So when you click create here, you're greeted with this modal that allows you to select from various templates. As you can see, most of these are not yet in the interface tool, but you can already see what's coming. You have an intake process, you have onboarding, you have a Kanban view, you have an inbox view, and then you have down here a CRM, applicant tracker. I'm not sure how in-depth they're going to go with these, but it looks like they want to build out the average use cases. So you can just select the one that you want. Let's just click form and call it form test and create that interface. And it's going to go ahead and create that first page for you. So on that first page, you have a form. On the left, you can select some options. You can add components, so that's text, form, tables. These tables connect back to Zapier tables feature, so you can display that data. You have a Kanban view. The inbox view is still locked on here, so that's all coming soon. But look at this, you're going to be able to have a checkout page, stat cards for some sort of dashboard, a search feature. So you can see that they're building out common use cases for building your own application. Now, I think this is really, really smart. Right now, when I create a Bubble app for a client, I'm starting from scratch. It's a blank canvas and I have to come up with everything myself. If I want a form with 10 questions that then collects that data and then displays it in a table, that's going to be like 2 hours of work to build that and make it look nice. With Zapier, I could literally build that same thing with a couple of clicks. I can click the template, I can put in my fields, and then it's done. So what they're doing here is making it really easy and accessible to create these applications. And you really don't need to be technical to create something that's useful. Now, some of the things that you can do here, when you set up a form, you can create new fields with different types, and that allows you to have some sort of validation. You already have hidden fields. They're going to support pre-filling these fields with query parameters, which is great. What's really cool is on the actions here, when you navigate to the next page, you can include the form data. And then on that next page, you can merge that data into your response. So you can see on the Markdown guide here, there's syntax for inserting the values from that form. So you can put their name in here or put whatever field content that they submitted in the form on this thank you page. You can tell it what table to put the data into, so you can actually populate your tables with data from your interface, and then you can take actions like starting a zap, showing a notification, navigating to a page. Now let's talk limitations. Yes, there are a lot of limitations right now. Unlike a bubble app, this is not a blank canvas that you can just edit anything you want and make it look the way you want. If you go to the settings here, for example, you see a name, a subdomain, you have on the appearance tab, you have background and accent colors. Bless their hearts. And I know that this is not going to be like this forever. I'm sure they're going to add more customization, but this is definitely an alpha level customization here. You can get a custom domain, so that's great. You're going to be able to put it on your own domain and your own branding. Okay, so there's really not much to it yet, but this is honestly a really exciting preview nonetheless. I see a lot of potential here. I'm really excited for this one. This is going to allow you to create a whole new class of Zapier automations, and I call them human-guided automations. The idea is a lot of processes need more than just automation. They also need some human input. So what if you could take all of your processes right now that kind of break down once they need a human to get involved and automate them up until the point where there's a human decision that's needed. You could send that data into an inbox view and send a notification email to someone to go check the inbox. They go there, they have buttons that they can press, they have fields that they can fill out, and then they can hit next, and that will kick off the next part of the process. So you could use this in all kinds of ways. You could have a application system where people apply for some sort of program and you can deny or what's the opposite of deny? Accept them for that program, and you can have different automations tied to the deny or accept buttons. You can do all kinds of stuff with this. So I see a lot of potential here, and the fact that you can just do all of this with a few clicks instead of creating a totally new app from scratch is really huge. So if you want to get into the early access program, you can go to zapier.com/early access and just click on this button, fill out the information. Again, I don't think you're going to be able to build anything with this that's reliable yet, but it's at least a good preview to good things to come, and I'm excited to see what else they throw our way. Thanks for watching, and I'll keep you updated as Zapier continues to work on these features.